Jack Rayner had spent most of his life drifting from one star system to another, never staying in one place for long. Debt collection might not have been a glamorous job, but it paid well, and Jack had a reputation for getting results. He wasn't afraid of danger, and he had learned that thinking fast often saved more lives than brute strength. His next assignment seemed simple, a quick stop on Virelia to collect a gambling debt. Or so he thought. Virelia's capital was a city that glittered under the light of its twin suns. Towering structures curved into the sky like frozen waves, their surfaces reflecting every color of the spectrum. Hovercrafts zipped between them, leaving bright streaks in their wake. Jack maneuvered his small, weathered starship down to the landing pads near the entertainment district. Neon signs and alien glyphs flickered as he walked toward the coordinates he had been given. The air smelled of spices and ionized electricity, a mixture that always made him alert. The debtor, Torv, was notorious for avoiding his responsibilities. Jack had dealt with countless such individuals, but Torv was unique because of who he associated with. He wasn't alone. When Jack arrived at the designated building, he expected a tense argument and a quick resolution, but what greeted him was far more complicated. The private suite he entered was dimly lit, shadows dancing across its walls. At the far end of the room, a figure stood by the window. Her form was elegant, her movements precise and fluid. Her skin was iridescent, reflecting colors that shifted with the angle of the light from soft blue to muted gold. Her eyes were large and intelligent, observing Jack without fear. Jack immediately sensed why Torv was so cautious. She was no ordinary alien. Jack Rayner, Torv said, his voice nervous. You're early. He was sweating, his usual composure gone. But you don't understand. There are rules here. You can't just... Jack didn't respond to him. His attention was on the alien woman. She turned slightly, acknowledging Jack's presence, her eyes narrowing just a bit as if analyzing him. You're not from around here, she said softly, her voice melodic and calm. Yet you stand here without fear. I've learned to survive, Jack replied, keeping his tone steady. And collecting debts is part of survival. Before Torv could argue further, alarms blared, filling the room with harsh red light. Security drones activated, scanning the suite. Jack didn't hesitate. He grabbed the alien woman's hand, pulling her toward the exit. She didn't resist. Instead, she followed instinctively, moving gracefully and quickly. Together, they navigated narrow corridors, avoiding the drones and automated defenses. As they ran, Jack noticed the alien's sharp mind in action. She pointed out shortcuts, avoided traps, and guided him through paths he wouldn't have considered. You're efficient, Jack said between breaths. She didn't answer immediately, only maintaining a calm expression as they moved. They reached a transport bay only to find their path blocked by armed guards. Jack and the alien woman exchanged a brief glance. He had no plan beyond escape, but her presence gave him confidence. With a series of quick decisions, Jack created distractions, while she disabled security systems using tools he didn't even recognize. Together, they made it to a small unregistered shuttle. As they took off, Jack glanced at her, trying to understand her. You're not just a noble, he said. You're capable, more than most I've met. She looked at him, a faint smile on her lips. I've been underestimated before, she said simply. But perhaps I can trust you not to underestimate me again. Their escape wasn't over. The Duke's ships pursued them through the city, firing energy blasts and deploying interceptors. Jack piloted the shuttle with precision, dodging attacks while she calculated trajectories and provided tactical advice. For a moment, he forgot about collecting a simple debt. Survival became the only priority. Once clear of the immediate threat, the alien woman introduced herself properly. I am Lyra, she said, her tone formal but not cold. And I do not appreciate being a pawn in someone else's game. Jack, he replied, and I usually don't get caught up in royal politics. But I suppose today is an exception. Lyra studied him, her expression unreadable. Perhaps, or perhaps it is the beginning of something more complicated. Either way, I am no longer under the Duke's control. For now, we are equals in survival. They traveled through the outer systems using uncharted wormholes and abandoned stations to evade detection. During these quiet moments, Jack learned more about Lyra. She was not just intelligent and beautiful. She had a keen strategic mind. She spoke of her homeworld, her role as part of the Duke's court, and the restrictions she had endured. Jack listened, impressed by her resilience. For his part, Jack shared tales of humanity, stories of resourcefulness, bravery, and adaptation. Lyra seemed fascinated by his perspective, often asking questions about how humans survived in the harshest environments. Jack explained that humans relied on creativity and unpredictability, qualities that often caught more organized species off guard. One evening, as they floated near a small asteroid field, Jack and Lyra watched the stars through the shuttle's observation window. The silence between them was comfortable, not awkward. Jack realized that he respected Lyra not only for her abilities, but for her character. She had survived in a world that sought to control her, and yet she remained independent, intelligent, and courageous. Suddenly, the shuttle's sensors detected incoming vessels. Jack's instincts kicked in. "Looks like the Duke hasn't given up," he said, preparing for another chase. Lyra nodded calmly. "Then we continue. We adapt or we fail. Survival is the measure of value, human." Jack couldn't help but smile. Her words reminded him of his own philosophy. Together, they plotted a course through a nearby nebula, using its dense clouds to mask their movements. Lyra's input proved invaluable as they navigated the treacherous environment, avoiding natural hazards and enemy tracking systems. By the time they emerged on the other side, Jack realized something had changed. What had started as a routine debt collection had become a journey of partnership and trust. He wasn't sure where it would lead, but he knew that Lyra was someone he could rely on, someone whose skills complemented his own in ways he had never experienced before. As they set course for a distant, unclaimed system, Lyra looked at Jack with a mix of curiosity and challenge. "So, human," she said, "are you ready for whatever comes next?" Jack grinned. "After today, I think we can handle anything together." Lyra smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the stars outside. "Then perhaps our journey truly begins here." The shuttle glided silently through the endless expanse of space. Jack felt a rare sense of purpose. He had come to Virelia for a debt, expecting routine danger and negotiation. Instead, he had found an ally, a partner, and perhaps someone who could challenge him in ways he had never imagined. For the first time in a long while, Jack allowed himself to hope that this adventure could be more than survival. It could be a chance to change not only their lives, but the lives of many others across the galaxy. As Part 1 ended, the pair drifted into uncharted space, leaving behind the Duke, his security forces, and the city that had set these events into motion. Jack didn't know what awaited them, but one thing was certain. He was no longer alone, and the galaxy suddenly seemed full of possibilities. The weeks after their escape were a blur of constant movement and cautious planning. Jack Rayner and Lyra had learned to navigate the galaxy on the run, slipping through unclaimed systems, abandoned stations, and uncharted wormholes. Every day brought a new challenge, from avoiding bounty hunters hired by the Duke to surviving the unpredictable hazards of deep space. Yet despite the danger, Jack felt a growing sense of connection with Lyra. She was more than the alien wife of a Duke. She was clever, brave, and endlessly resourceful. One evening, as their shuttle drifted near a remote asteroid cluster, Jack studied the constellations outside the observation window. "You ever wonder if we'll just keep running forever?" he asked. Lyra, perched lightly on the console, looked at him thoughtfully. "Running is temporary. Survival is constant. But I do not intend to run forever. We must find a way to shape the future rather than flee from the past." Jack nodded. That was why he trusted her. Most humans, even those trained for the deadliest assignments, would have panicked months ago. Lyra, on the other hand, combined courage with intelligence, turning fear into strategy. Their next encounter proved the truth of her words. While charting a course through a neutral sector, Jack received a distress signal from a mining colony under siege by space pirates. The miners were desperate, outnumbered, and lacking proper defenses. Normally, Jack would have avoided such complications. But Lyra insisted, analyzing the situation with calm precision. "We can help them. If we do, we gain allies and resources. It may also give us leverage against those who pursue us." Together, they devised a plan. Jack would pilot the shuttle through the asteroid field to distract the pirates, drawing them into a trap. Lyra would use the colony's limited defenses, guiding the miners to set up ambushes and improvised weapons. Her knowledge of strategy was astonishing. Jack realized that despite her life of luxury and courtly etiquette, she had the mind of a warrior. The first skirmish was chaotic. Pirates fired plasma bolts across the colony, sending sparks and debris flying. Jack maneuvered the shuttle with precision, weaving between asteroids while dodging fire. Lyra's calm instructions filtered through his comlink, telling him where to strike, when to pull back, and how to anticipate enemy moves. Against all odds, their plan worked. The pirates, frustrated and unprepared for such coordination, retreated. The miners cheered, their faces lit with hope for the first time in weeks. Jack and Lyra landed among the grateful miners. "You saved us," an older miner said, bowing respectfully. Lyra nodded, but her eyes were already scanning the horizon. "We only delayed them. They will return if we do not act decisively. We must prepare for the next wave." Jack marveled at her foresight. Most humans he knew would have celebrated and relaxed. Lyra, however, treated victory as temporary, a step toward a larger goal. He began to realize that she was not just a partner for survival. She was someone who could lead, inspire, and challenge him. As days turned into weeks, Jack and Lyra's bond deepened. They shared stories of their worlds. Jack spoke of Earth, of human resilience, creativity, and unpredictability. Lyra shared tales of her home world, of political intrigue, alliances, and betrayals that shaped her life. Despite their different backgrounds, they found common ground in their values: courage, intelligence, and loyalty. One night, as they rested in a hidden outpost near a barren planet, Lyra turned to Jack with a serious expression. "Jack, the Duke will not stop. He has resources beyond our comprehension. Eventually, he will come for me directly. We must plan for that day." Jack's jaw tightened. He had assumed that avoidance would be enough, that staying in uncharted regions would keep them safe. Lyra's words reminded him that the galaxy was bigger than their immediate concerns. "Then we fight smarter, not harder," he said. "We turn the tables before he has a chance to strike," and fight smarter they did. Using Lyra's knowledge of interstellar politics and Jack's experience with human improvisation, they began to build alliances. Mercenaries, traders, and even minor nobility sympathetic to Lyra's plight agreed to assist. They shared intelligence, resources, and safe havens. Slowly, the Duke's reach began to diminish. Their efforts culminated in a confrontation at a remote space station on the edge of a neutral sector. The Duke's envoys arrived with a fleet, expecting compliance and intimidation. Instead, they were met with coordinated defenses, strategic traps, and an unexpected counterattack. Jack piloted the shuttle with unmatched precision, while Lyra orchestrated the station's defenses. Every move anticipated the Duke's tactics, turning what should have been a crushing defeat into a resounding victory. When the battle ended, the Duke's forces retreated. His envoys, humiliated and defeated, had no choice but to report failure. Jack and Lyra had not only survived, they had proven that courage, strategy, and adaptability could overcome even the most powerful enemies. In the quiet that followed, Jack and Lyra surveyed the stars from the station's observation deck. "We did it," Jack said, leaning against the railing. "We actually did it," Lyra smiled faintly. "We did. But remember, Jack, this is only one battle. The galaxy is vast, and we have only begun to shape our path." Jack nodded, but he felt a sense of pride and hope he hadn't experienced in years. They had survived impossible odds, turned enemies into allies, and learned to trust each other in ways few could understand. Over the following months, Jack and Lyra continued their travels, combining human ingenuity and alien strategy. They explored uncharted systems, brokered alliances, and even mediated conflicts between species that had been at war for centuries. Each adventure strengthened their partnership, proving that humans, with their adaptability and courage, could thrive even in the most alien environments. One day, as they prepared to enter a particularly treacherous star cluster, Lyra turned to Jack with a contemplative expression. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" she asked. Jack considered it for a moment. "Honestly, I've spent most of my life surviving from one day to the next. But now I think we can shape more than survival. We can make a difference, together." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the swirling colors of the cluster outside. "Then let us continue. Not as a fugitive and a debt collector, but as partners, as equals, as humans and aliens capable of changing the galaxy." Jack smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The journey that had begun with a simple debt collection had transformed into something far greater. He had found an ally in Lyra, someone whose mind and spirit matched his own. Together they faced a universe full of danger, opportunity, and possibility. As their shuttle slipped into the heart of the star cluster, Jack knew that their adventure was far from over. But for the first time, he did not fear what lay ahead. With Lyra by his side, he understood that humans could survive, adapt, and even thrive among the stars. And more than that, he realized that courage, intelligence, and trust could forge bonds stronger than any obstacle the galaxy could throw at them. For Jack and Lyra, the future was no longer a matter of escaping danger. It was a matter of defining it. They would navigate it together, challenging expectations, defying enemies, and proving that even in the vastness of space, humanity could stand tall. As Part 2 closed, the stars stretched endlessly before them, a canvas of infinite possibilities. Jack and Lyra, once separated by worlds and allegiances, were now united in purpose. They had survived, they had triumphed, and they were ready for whatever the galaxy had in store.